Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Brown James, co-founder and senior advisor of the Collective PAC. And we are so excited to have you join us once again for another series in our Collective Power Speaker Series. We have two phenomenal candidates that you will hear from today around the topic of faith and politics, something that is both talked about a lot and probably not talked about enough at all. And so we are so honored to be joined by two fearless trailblazers who are ready to serve, to continue to serve their states. First, we have with us Dr. Chris Jones, who is the Democratic frontrunner in the race to become the next governor of Arkansas. Dr. Jones has earned a BS in physics and mathematics from the Morehouse College in Atlanta. Also, he has an MS degree in nuclear engineering and technology and policy, but it keeps going. He also has a PhD in urban planning from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, multiple degrees. He's an ordained pastor. He's a son of two preachers who was raised with a strong sense of faith. He also had the privilege and blessing to serve as the head of the Arkansas Regional Innovation Hub, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to inspiring creatives and supporting makers and advancing infrastructure for entrepreneurs across Arkansas. We also have with us the phenomenal Senator Erica Smith, who is running for election in the U.S. House of Representatives in North Carolina's 1st Congressional District. Senator Smith received her bachelor's degree from the North Carolina A&T, but most importantly, her master's from the Howard University School of Divinity. Y'all have heard me before, you know I rep Howard all day. Senator Smith has worked in Aerosmith Engineering at Boeing, served on the Northampton County's Board of Education and as chairwoman of the Northampton County Democratic Party. She was first elected to the North Carolina Senate in 2014, and Senate District 3 she served in from 2015 to 2021. So these are two phenomenal leaders, as I mentioned, who also, I think, ironically, have an engineering background. I think we'll get into that. Hello, Dr. Chris, Senator Erica, welcome. How are y'all today?
Wonderful, glad to be here. Truly, Chris and I are kindred spirits, and you too, Stephanie. We're all in ministry, we're all leaders, and having that engineering background, I know people are going to want to know, how did two engineers also are bivocational and are ministers as well?
Yeah, and there's another linkage. My wife is an HU Bison.
Oh,
so come on now.
I got mad love for the Bisons, though.
Now,
mad love for the Bisons.
Is your wife a Delta?
No.
I'm about to say, because if so, we about to really just be
her mom is though. Her mom's an Alpha Chapter Delta.
What?
Okay. Wow. Alpha Chapter. Okay. Well,
you felt that, didn't you?
I felt it in my whole soul. Okay. As you can see, this combo can go in so many directions. Let me start off the conversation, and I want to start with you, Chris, about your background. You know, you are the son of two pastors. How were you raised in Arkansas? I know that you have a long family lineage in the state. Tell us a little bit about your background and how that has informed not only your faith, but as you are running for office in Arkansas, how all that has led you to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be in the conversation with you, Erica, and I'm inspired by all that you do, and I'm sending you prayers and love and thoughts at all times, because you got this. And Stephanie, thanks for all that you all do in supporting us, because it matters a lot. I'm a 7th generation Arkansan, so my family's been here for over 200 years, and for me, the idea of community and of faith and a family have always been deeply embedded in me. And really, there was my blood family, and then there was my church family. And that was really my life, right? So I grew up in the church all the time. And there's particularly for Black folk, there's a culture that comes with growing up in the church. And part of that culture was to not only be grounded in something that was higher than myself, for us, Jesus Christ, it was also to know that we're here for a purpose and a reason. And we're all here for a purpose and a reason that we have to work as hard as we can to live out. And so that's really what was the sort of foundation and the driver for me. We can talk later about why politics. I've always had a love for science, but the environment that I grew up in gave me the safety and security to be able to try things that I might fail at. And because I always knew that I would fall back on some supports. And I always knew that my eternal life was set. So as long as my eternal life is set, let's rock and roll.
Love that, Chris. Erica?
I just have to start off by, I can't be remiss. Let me let everybody know my BS is in mechanical engineering from the North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie pride to all the Aggies. But I too am a seventh generation North Carolinian. And so I grew up on my family's farm in northeastern North Carolina right after my dad retired from the United States Air Force. He was in 20 plus years, and as a Air Force vet, we were able to travel around the country and around the world. And so many of that time was spent on military bases. And so I grew up in a faith-based tradition. My mom, my dad, and it's 6 children in my family, 5 girls and 1 boy. Daddy kept on trying. He kept on trying until he finally got the baby boy. And so I'm just so excited because when you look at that humble upbringing, growing up on a dirt road in Northampton County, and that road is still not paved. And my mother is 80 years old. She grew up on that dirt path. My grandmother grew up on that dirt path. And so as I look at my reference point, what has centered me in the fight for social justice through politics, through community building, I have to look at spending time in base at chapel. And when you're on a military base, many times you don't know which service you're going to get. And so on some Sundays, it will be Catholic Mass. Another Sunday will be a Protestant service. Every now and then we could get a National Baptist, Southern Baptist experience. And there were times when it was synagogue. And so that exposed me very early to an ecumenical passion, I would say, that embraces world religions. But I grew up in a missionary Baptist church. That's where I began the fight for social justice, and hearing the mothers and the deacons and the brethren sing those spirituals and sing those songs about how our generations have made it over. Truly, that is the inspiration that has led me to fight for social justice through politics. But in every movement, we have found that it's been the pastors and the ministers who have been the leaders in the civil rights movement and, beyond Reconstruction. And so that's where I got my reference. It's being inspired by so many faith-based leaders, but understanding my faith tradition, and it compels me to fight for equity, to fight for equal opportunity, to fight for social justice. And Lord knows, Stephanie, Howard University School of Divinity prepared me well in African descendant religions and traditions. And so my thesis for my master's was by the pulpit or the polls, political mobilization of the Black religious experience. And so I believe firmly that there is a corollary between casting your cares at the altar on Sunday morning, but also going out and casting your vote so you can realize those cares by secular means in the here and now. In other words, we don't have to wait until the after while. We don't have to wait until the eschatology. We can have that right here and right now when we fight toward the social justice aspect, this carry on the social justice ministry of Jesus Christ.
I know
all right.
Now.
Okay, now I was about to say, here we go. I'm here for it. Right? I'm here for it.
Come on.
And I love, Erica, that you brought up how you were influenced through theology around your social justice advocacy. And I believe that you know, my Savior, Jesus Christ, is one of the greatest examples of a social justice activist and organizers that we've ever seen. And that the Bible teaches us, you know, faith without works is dead. We have to be able to pray, but also to participate. And so, unfortunately, though, in today's society, you know, people would have you thinking that faith in politics shouldn't exist or that it's a bad thing. And so how, as you all are on the trail and talking to potential candidates and supporters and also naysayers, how do you bring the full breadth of your faith as a person running for office and as a person who is seeking to serve or continue to serve in public office? How do you reconcile all that? Chris?
Yeah, I mean, that's a rich question, because it sort of gets at the heart of interactions. And before I go there, let me just also go back and say, Erica, we are more kindred spirits than I thought. And I realized, look, I grew up in Barracue Street Missionary Baptist Church. So, but I had parents who took me to Pentecostal churches and, you know, and Methodist churches and the like. And also my wife is an Air Force vet. So I'm an Air Force spouse and she's a Air Force child herself. And I have 3 girls. Unlike your father, I stopped. So, yeah.
Never too late, Chris. Never too late.
All right. No, yes, it is. Look, that is not my mission or my ministry. So look, you know, really, for me, it comes down to how do we best authentically engage with others? Right. So when I think about the life of Jesus, what always struck me about his parables, his journey, was that every engagement was deeply authentic. And so when I go out and engage folks, I try to be as authentic as possible. So when I talk about my faith and my Christianity, it's to open the door of my mind and my heart and my spirit so people know from whence I will make decisions. You know, what is it that's going to be guiding me? Because all of us have something guiding us. Our values, our foundation are what undergird our decisions. And what I try to be transparent about, folks, is look, you don't have to be a Christian to support me, but I want you to understand that that's the grounding and foundation upon which I make decisions. And I love what you said, Stephanie, about there's no better example of a social justice advocate than Jesus Christ, that went for the poor and the disaffected. And so that is what guides me. And my interactions all across the state have really been positive because people appreciate the understanding of who I am. And then they can make a better informed decisions about how they go forward.
That's great. Erica?
So for far too long, I feel that on the Democratic side, we have a little bit shied away from the discussion of faith in politics. And there is no reason why we let the other side dominate in that conversation. And everything that we do as the big tent party of inclusion, it is about, you know, aspiring to be like Jesus of the disinherited. Jesus didn't just stay in the temple and teach all day. Jesus went out to marginalized communities and he promoted social justice. And so we have so many of the teachings, and I have, you know, being a theologian, have looked at the principles that are being taught through Catholicism, through Judaism, and through Christianity. And the tenets are very clear and they mirror each other in the fight for equity and equality and being repairers of the breach, repairers of the world. So it's been natural for me to talk about these issues from a faith-based perspective. Now, don't get it wrong. A lot of people in this political space are very firmly committed to First Amendment freedoms and Establishment Clause jurisprudence and making sure there is separation between church and state. I'm not trying to establish a religion out here, but what I'm informed by my faith. I'm informed by the teachings of the Holy Scriptures and the teachings of across different denominations, different faiths that all inspire me to build a beloved community that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King talked about, to address social inequities that have a permanent second-class citizenship, to make sure that on the road to Samaria, we know that that road was fraught with danger. And too many people preach the Good Samaritan story without getting to the underlying teaching of that pericope. It's about, we got to wake up and say, everybody knows it was dangerous. And so when are we going to fix the road? When are we going to fix the road so that the victims who are victimized by by systems of inequality, by corporate monopolies hollowing out these small towns and leaving it barren, almost reminds me of the lepers being outside of the city in Kings. And they're like, if we stay out here, we're going to die. And so let's go in town and let's get what we need. We need to make sure that we are reaching the furthest parts of society and building equity and fighting for social justice. And so in all of my messaging, I come from that strong faith-based perspective, that Judeo-Christian teachings that inspire me to fight for equality. The Lord hates unjust weights and talks about it under the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. So when we are messaging and we are speaking to voters, particularly in this rural district that I'm in, 19 counties, 90% of this district is rural. And so when I talk about good paying jobs, when I talk about investing in farmers, when I talk about taking on corporate monopolies, that is what they understand in me being firmly committed to build social justice and advocacy for those who have been left out of opportunities for far too long.
Yes, that's excellent. And go ahead, Chris.
Can I ask Erica a question?
Yes, sir.
I know this one ain't the way it's supposed to go. I'm so intrigued. I'm like lost in what you're saying, Erica. How do you deal, because I love how you framed it. How do you deal with that tension between your framing and the need to do things to fix the road, which we know is grounded biblically, and the framing that you get from some, even in our own party, that are saying, don't talk about that, don't address that, framing in a different way? Like, how do you deal with that tension?
Well, I deal with that tension with getting them to understand that you have to have conversations that address what people are facing every day. And I come from the perspective, when Jesus taught to the masses, he didn't just jump up there and start teaching. I mean, what did Jesus do first? He took care of that physical need. He fed folks. Because you have to attend to that immediate need that folks need. And folks, you know, where there's food scarcity, where there are lack of educational opportunities, coming from that perspective, when Jesus said the last shall be first and the first shall be last, for me, he wasn't talking about an eschatological reversal of fortune. What the teaching, the central teaching of that statement was to say, we're going to so work together for equality that you can't distinguish those who have from those who have not. And so in understanding, when we get that kickback from party folks, you know, I just have to share with them, I grew up in this community. I know my neighbors. My neighbors believe in God. And my neighbors want to fight for better opportunities. And my neighbors are committed to doing their part to build a more just society. So that's how I address that from those within the party structure who would fight against understanding the importance of a rise, I would say, in the religious left. It is very critical, particularly if we want to win rural districts and address the needs of rural communities all across America that have been left behind.
And I can imagine, kind of to your question, Chris, that there are also people that you run into that are deeply afraid that your faith will actually hinder your ability to be a good legislator, to be a person that can, you know, stick to politics and get things done. Like, have you run across that as you've been campaigning across your district and the state, where people are like, no, too much religion, too much faith. I don't want to see it. That's not where, that doesn't belong in government. Have you had that experience?
I have. It's not an overwhelming number of occurrences, if you would, but I certainly have had it in folks feeling, but the reason they feel that way is because the experiences they've had with the religious right.
Yes.
That's why they feel that way.
Yes.
Right. And the reality for, I approach it in different ways, but we all have family members that are nutso. Just because my family member is nutso doesn't mean that I'm still and always will be a Jones. Right. I don't disown my family because of the nutsos in there. And so what I've had to do was to explain to them, back to what I said earlier, that this is about you understanding the foundation of my value system. And through conversation, people get it, and they realize that say it differently. What folks are concerned about is people using them for power. That's what they're concerned about. You only come in and use me for power, and you're going to continue to oppress me. Once we have the conversation about what Christianity really is and what the walk of Christ really was about, and how these folks don't represent real Christianity, then it starts to shift. At least in my experience.
And
Absolutely.
And Erica, you want to add to that?
No. Chris hit the nail on the head.
And so to that, I was thinking of a community of people that are probably very worried about being used in a way that is not beneficial to anybody, let alone them. And that's young people. Yeah. And I think young people are definitely much more aware of when someone is not being authentic or genuine, or someone is trying to use them. And that oftentimes has them be very disengaged in the political process because they don't believe the folks that are standing before them saying that they're going to do X, Y, and Z. But yet it feels as though bringing your faith into the conversation is a way to create bridges to young people by using your values and talking to them in that way. I'm wondering how your experience has been in engaging young people throughout your campaigns, and how are they responding when you talk about issues of values and faith to them?
Absolutely. The younger folks are the first to call out the hypocrisy.
Yes.
So, I mean, another teaching of Jesus, suffer the little children unto me. And for those who discard and disrespect this younger generation, you might as well tie a millstone around your neck and fall into the lake. And so that's exactly the approach that I have had with the millennials, and then younger than the millennials, the Zillennials, I guess whatever you call them. And I know that they see the world as it should be, as President Obama said, not as it is, but as it should be. And that's where their inspiration comes from. They want to know that there is someone who is fighting for them, who's going to take on college loan debt, who's going to look at the burden that's placed on these generations, who's going to look at the issues that they are struggling with. And that is the whole movement of how we need to train the next level of leadership, for lack of a better way to say it. They've gotten tired of the church. And this 21st century church, I don't think we will ever be the same after this pandemic. There are so many people still going to Bedside Baptist Church. I mean, it's we want to keep
faithfully too. Yes.
Faithfully. And so they want to, so with the access to technology and their ability to have a better choice about who they're going to listen to and who they're going to march alongside and fight with, it's about keeping up with the foot soldiers, and the foot soldiers are not going to be following a dead message. And so when we understand that not only is the message critical, but the messenger is critical. And if we are going to survive and build a more just and a more equitable society, we have to take on these issues that are most impactful for them. And that's why, my strong platform includes addressing systems of inequality, these broken economic systems that have disenfranchised younger folks. And particularly, that's why I'm fighting for ending college loan debt. Also understanding that, when God created the heaven and the earth, he told us to be good stewards. And so I'm able to message to this younger generation through taking bold climate action. I believe in this particular race that I am in, I've been endorsed by Sunrise Movement. In previous terms, I have been endorsed by, supported by the League of Conservation Voters. I've been their Senator of the Year. I have a strong environmental platform, and that's from my upbringing growing up on the family farm, knowing how clean air and clean water, and growing up next door to the birthplace of the environmental justice movement in Warren County when they had the toxic PCB dumping. That's when I developed my political awareness and consciousness around a community standing up and fighting for those who are being harmed. And when the young people see that, they are inspired, they are passionate, and they know that they have a messenger and a message that they can believe in. And, no cap, it takes away all of the discrepancy and the hypocrisy and the fakeness, and because they'll call you out when you're not real. And that's why a lot of them have been disengaged, because we need to make sure that we are not running away from the issues, we're running on the issues, but we're messaging in a way and a reference that is authentic.
Yeah. Chris,
Selah.
Chris, yes. You want to add to that, Chris?
I'll just say Selah.
Okay. I'm with it.
We got a witness.
I felt that.
With it. So I have a specific question for you, Chris, and that is, one, I want to know, how's it going? And I'm asking the how's it going because you are in, we rarely have Black people elected on a statewide level. You can literally count on one hand the number of Black governors we've had. Two, you are running against someone in the race who, bless her heart, is not the best person for Arkansas. I'll put it that way. I'm gonna keep it classy. I'm gonna keep it classy today because we're talking about faith. The Lord is working on my spirit and my heart.
This is Holy Week too, so.
Oh yes, yes it is. Yes it is. And so she is not a person that is for what it seems like everybody in the state. And I know that you are working to make sure that everybody in the state of Arkansas has a fair shot to live the best life possible. How is it going when you're running in such a heated environment? And how do you stand on your faith to get you through? Because brother, I am sure it is not easy.
Well, I appreciate the question. And I felt the personal concern in that question. So thank you for that. I'm actually great. Like I'm having the time of my life. And for a few reasons. One, I am experiencing the thing that God planted in me when I was 8 years old. So when I was 8 years old, I was in the mall with my dad. He drove me to the mall 45 minutes away. I met Bill Clinton. And I was fascinated.
Wow.
Right. And I said, Dad, what does he do? He said, he's a governor. Now, mind you, I'm two preachers' kid. My grandparents had third grade education. They always cared about community and family. I was going to serve in some role other people, and I was going to help my state. That was always in the cards. How wasn't in the cards. After Dad said he's governor, I said, what's a governor? And he said, let's go look it up. So we went home to the Encyclopedia Britannica because we didn't have Google. And I found out that a governor could actually serve and make a difference in people's lives and solve problems. And I love solving problems. So I said, that's what I want to do at 8. So I'm living out the dreams of an 8-year-old. Now, my life's journey has not been easy. And I've dealt with a lot of struggles and disappointments and loss and so on and so forth, which gives me the sort of the grounding to be okay with whatever darts are thrown. And most importantly, I think two things are that I realize that I'm enormously blessed. And there is nothing that anybody can do against me. And yet there are so many people that are vulnerable. So I'm willing to take the blows because somebody else is struggling and because somebody else needs an opportunity. So bring all you got. The other thing is that I try to put on the whole armor of God every day. And that's what protects me. Because the battle isn't here, isn't in the words that she says, isn't in the actions that people take. Like, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. There's a whole different battle that's going on that I'm focused on, which allows me to then say, as I traverse the day to day, I'm good. And I'm telling you, I'm literally having a blast in what I'm doing. And the last thing I'll say is what gives me peace and allows me to sleep well at night is remembering that some plant, some water, but only God brings.
God gives the increase.
So my job is to plant and water. What keeps me up, what keeps people up late is they're worried about the increase. How can I bring the increase? But if I trust the increase to God, all I gotta do is wake up every day and go knock on doors and go stop at gas stations and talk to people and tell them about PB&J, preschool broadband and jobs, and encourage other folks. If I do that, then whatever increase God brings on May 24th and then on November 8th, whatever increase he brings, Chris Jones is going to be happy. Because it's going to be exactly what he wanted.
That's a word.
And the reality, here's the deal: Sarah can't do nothing about that.
Not even if she tried.
There's no weapon that she can send to stop that, right? So we
no,
good.
No.
Let's go fight.
And one of the things I know about both of you is that you really have people that stand by your side through this as well, that can help be the wind beneath your wings. That can be, Jesus had to have his disciples.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had to be there with him, standing strong. And so how is your team around you? How do you cultivate the right people around you in this moment where you are going through one of the biggest races of your lives? What does a team look like of folks that's supporting you? Erica?
Wow. So I prayed about this team. I prayed for this team. And God was preparing this team as God was preparing me. And the amazing thing about this team is that whenever we bring somebody new on, everybody is at the table. Everybody is vetting, because the synergy and the chemistry, you all need to be on one accord, right, Chris? Got to be
for real
on one accord. And how can two walk together unless they agree? So applying the scriptures in the selection, I have the best team on the planet. Me and Chris that would be the only thing we disagree on.
That's the only thing we disagree on.
Because on the planet.
I love it.
But we center ourselves, and we know how difficult this is. And so, Chris, you almost brought me to tears a few minutes ago. They may have to edit my tears out of this screenshot, but I was, listening to what you shared, and that's the reason why you are the front runner, because you've centered yourself in this race, knowing that you have to plant and water, but God is going to give the increase. And certainly the folks who have volunteered and who have interviewed, and the Lord just directed their feet to this team. And I'm just so grateful, and I am so thankful. And we have to stay prayed up, because politics is so dirty. Stephanie, oh my goodness, it is so dirty.
Yeah.
And I need a team that can lift my hands up when my arms are tired. Like, Uri and when they were in battle and they had to hold up the prophet's arms. And so being very intentional, understanding who you have on your team and making sure that you stay solid and you stay tight, and I pray over this team. You know what is so funny? Because they'll always pause. Sometimes when I'm having a rough time in call time, Olivia will say, Erica, the senator, do you need to do Holy Spirit? And I'll say, yes, Holy Spirit, activate.
Yes, activate.
I love it.
Yes.
But then whenever I get an endorsement, you know, Boris will say, okay, I'll give you a minute. I have literally pulled over on the side of the road and gotten out and done my praise dance.
Watch out now.
So because my team knows how important that is for me and how I have to stay prayed up and how I have to meditate and how they know on Sundays, the Sabbath is holy to me. And there are things that they keep and they do for me on a Sunday because they know I'm on assignment and when I am preaching and how I have to stay focused and compartmentalize. And so, you know, as Jesus had the inner core, I truly, everybody on my team is that inner circle that knows. And they know that we have to be about action, but we have to cover each other. And we have to make sure that we don't allow the enemy to pull us down to their level, because as dirty as politics, it will. It will.
So Erica, we're gonna have to get on regular calls.
We're gonna have to.
Let me tell you,
like I feel like we got something.
Y'all need to lead we need to have a candidate prayer call.
Hey, I'm with it.
Oh yes.
I'm like,
That's
let's
what we need.
Let's rock and roll. You know, I love what you said, Eric, and I love praying over the team. And my mom has some prayer warriors that they pray 3 times a week, and they have our team's list, and so they take them to the altar all the time. And there've been a couple of times when she called me about folks that I wasn't even sure about, and got me to open my eyes to see how to get some things straight. But my life has always been, you know, God reveals himself in different ways, and he shows up in people's lives in different ways. And mine has tended to be an open doors kind of life, right? So I look for the door that God opens and I walk through it. And that's how it has been for a lot of the folks that have been on the team. There have been moments even before I announced when my eyes were kind of prayerfully open. And when I felt or saw that would be the person, there have been times when I asked them and planted a seed well before they even knew what I was asking for. And the other is that I've noticed how at key moments, all of a sudden, somebody shows up that has exactly what I need.
What we need.
Because the provision is laid out. If I stay on the path and walk the path, it's like a video game where all I have to do is reach down and grab it because it's there right before I need it. And the other piece is we actually developed, I say we because I hate taking credit for stuff, but the reality is it was me, and it was through prayer and through efforts, a culture document. So we have an actual document that outlines the values, the beliefs, and the behaviors for the campaign. And every one of those values, beliefs, and behaviors is grounded in scripture. So we have like 12 values. Every one of those values is grounded in a particular scripture. And anybody that comes on the team, you have to read. Now, you don't have to be Christian. You have to understand it and understand how you're going to live that out. And you cannot violate those values, those beliefs, or those behaviors, because that's what'll get you kicked off. We got a whole lot of grace for a lot of stuff. But the minute you start violating those values, those behaviors, those principles, you got to go. You're for somebody else's team. So,
and what I appreciate is I know just from knowing you, that they are rooted in the basic, to me, fundamental aspect, which is to be a good person.
Yes.
To be a good person.
Yes. Just be
that, you know, if we could just do that, but anyways, so our time is winding down, y'all. I have been so uplifted and inspired more than I could ever convey to y'all, and I'm not gonna convey it because then I will be in tears, Erica. Then they ain't gonna stop, baby. Okay, so we're gonna just keep pushing through. But what I would like to know is, in the midst of all that you have going on, how are you taking care of you? Your spirit, your sanity, your soul. Like, how are you relaxing? And I hope you are relaxing when you get a chance, but how are you taking ownership and control of your personal care during this time?
Well, I have to ask the Lord to bring all things into remembrance, because I haven't had a relaxing vacation in so long. I cannot even remember. But this is what I do. I meditate every morning, and at night, after I finish long call time sessions or forums or events, I listen to prayers as I fall asleep, to have the prayers over me and over my life and over this mission, because I do need the strength. And so every now and then I'm able, at the day after the end of a quarter, I do take a moment to reset, to breathe, to inhale and do the things that I love to do. Those things that I love to do, I grew up on my family's farm, so I'm always looking at the almanac and figuring out we can get something in the ground, what needs to be planted. And I have a grandbaby now, and she loves string beans. And so my daughter-in-law is pureeing her string beans. So I said, okay, I need to plant some extra rows of string beans.
Yes, that's beautiful.
I get out onto the family farm, and I walk and I meditate. And I also love the water. I live near Lake Gaston. And so a big part of what my family has always done is we've done Sunday evenings on the lake. And so I love to swim, kayak, canoe, and even get on the boat. We commissioned a ship after my dad passed away. He always wanted to get a family boat. So we commissioned the Smitty, and we get out there as often as we can. That's what I do to relax and reset, staying prayed up.
That's beautiful. Chris, looks like we're going to be going down to visit Erica.
I was going to say, I'm adding visit Erica to
we're going to be on the lake too,
right?
baby.
I love the water.
Me
Let me
too.
tell you, there's something special about the water. Wow, I love what you said, Erica. And for me, I believe in seasons, right? To everything, there's a season, and in most seasons of the campaign, what I've worked to do is protect that sort of Sunday to Monday timeframe, and really Mondays. Like my recharge day is Monday for some reason, and I think it's because I grew up in the church and did so much on the weekend, and I was preaching and stuff, and so I just needed Monday to just recharge. So the campaign knows that generally Monday is my day. However, we're in a different season as we get closer to the primary election. And I understand this season requires a full out nonstop. This season is going to end, in which case I will be able to go back to the recharging at different times. And so for me, I try to do whatever is appropriate for that season, and be flexible to shift. One of our values is rest. And so the Christian right, the religious right, I should say, not Christian right. The religious right will say you can't do anything on Sunday. You have to lock everything up. They have a prescribed way of how you get rest. My thing is, I know how I want to follow rest. Your rest might be different. Everybody on the campaign is required to understand the way you do rest, and you get that. But going back to your question about personally, I love just barbecuing. I love getting on the grill. It's relaxing. So when I come, Erica, you get me a grill, and I will cook meats all day long, and throw some
one of those big barrel grills. And so I'll make sure I have plenty of coals.
I love hanging out with my girls. I love when my wife and I get to just kind of go and people watch. And that's something that we enjoy doing. And I love reading. So whenever I can get a day to just kind of sit and read and listen to music. On a day-to-day basis, I try to make sure I'm constantly praying and constantly try to work out here and there every now and then to keep my physical up. But at the end of the day, it goes back to seasons. So, I shift based on whatever the season is.
That's beautiful. I have gained and been blessed by the both of you so much today. And I know that those who are watching this and will watch this and will share this will also be immensely blessed. And I just want to give my appreciation to you both for being so forthright in who you are, for being so bold and so rooted and grounded in being a good person, and a good person that is working your hardest to make the world a better place for those around us. And not just the folks in your states, but you literally are inspiring people from around the country. So I want to say thank you to you both for that. And thank you to everyone who is tuning into our speaker series. Dr. Chris Jones, Senator Erica Smith need your support, whether you live in Kalamazoo, Cleveland, or Charlotte. It is important that this man is our next governor of Arkansas and that this woman is our next congresswoman from North Carolina. So please, I encourage you to go to their individual websites, which you can find on the Collective PAC site, collectivepac.org. You can give your donation to them there. We know that faith without works is dead. We have to make sure that we put the work in to get these two elected, not just for them, but for the betterment of their states and our country. And so with that, I want to say thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Chris Jones. Thank you, Senator Erica Smith. We appreciate you both. I am praying for you. Our collective family is praying for you. And we look forward to seeing the increase that will soon come to pass. Thank you all.
Thank you. Be blessed, everybody.
Thank you.